The celebration echoed through the massive command ship as 7 different alien species raised their voices in victory. Supreme Chancellor Vextar stood at the center of the bridge, his 4 arms spread wide as he addressed the assembled fleet commanders. His scaled skin gleamed under the artificial lights, and his yellow eyes burned with the hunger for more conquest. "My loyal coalition brothers," Vextar announced, his voice carrying the authority that had united 7 warrior species under one banner. "Today we celebrate the fall of Kepler 442b. Another world bows before our might. Another species learns that resistance is futile." The alien commanders cheered. The Zephyrians clicked their claws in approval. The Korvac warriors roared their battle cries. The insectoid vril buzzed in harmonic agreement. Each species brought their own traditions of conquest. But all served the same goal: expanding the Hegemony Coalition's domain across the galaxy. Vextar raised one of his hands, and silence fell immediately. "But we cannot rest on past victories. Intelligence reports have identified our next target." A holographic display materialized above the bridge, showing a small blue and green world orbiting a yellow star. "The inhabitants call it Earth." Commander Zaktha of the Korvac leaned forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the tactical display. "What defenses does this world possess, Chancellor?" Vextar's laugh was cold and dismissive. "Defenses? These creatures have barely left their own planet. Their technology is primitive. They use chemical rockets to reach their single moon. They fight endless wars among themselves, over resources and territory." The assembled commanders studied the intelligence data. Earth appeared to be inhabited by bipedal creatures, called humans, who had divided their world into competing nations. Their space presence consisted of a few small stations and primitive satellites. Most telling of all, they seemed completely unaware that other intelligent life existed in the universe. "How many of them are there?" asked Commander Yix of the Vril, her compound eyes reflecting the light from the display. "Approximately 8 billion, Vextar replied. "But they are weak, soft. They spend their time creating art and music instead of weapons. They waste resources on helping their sick and elderly instead of strengthening their warriors. They will surrender within days of our arrival." The coalition commanders exchanged glances. A species of 8 billion should present some challenge. But the intelligence reports painted a picture of creatures so focused on internal conflicts that they would crumble at the first sign of external threat. Commander Hixval of the Zephyrians spread his wing arms in a gesture of agreement. "When do we depart, Chancellor?" "Immediately," Vextar declared. "Send the standard ultimatum first. Give them 3 solar rotations to surrender unconditionally. When they refuse, and they will refuse, as all primitive species do, we will demonstrate the futility of resistance." The coalition fleet began its journey toward the small blue world, confident in their overwhelming technological advantage. 7 species with hundreds of ships against one isolated planet that didn't even know aliens existed. It would be their easiest conquest yet. 3 days later, Captain Min Ji-woo sat in the command center of Earth Defense Force headquarters, staring at the message that had changed everything. The transmission had arrived through channels that shouldn't have existed, carrying a signal that human technology should not have been able to receive. The message itself was typically arrogant. Supreme Chancellor Vextar had identified himself as the leader of the Hegemony Coalition and demanded Earth's immediate surrender. The ultimatum listed their recent conquests and made clear that resistance would result in complete annihilation. Humanity had 3 days to decide. Min Ji-woo read the message again, her dark eyes scanning each line carefully. At 35, she had risen through the ranks of Earth Defense Force based on her calm decision-making under pressure. But nothing in her training had prepared her for first contact with hostile alien civilizations. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "Dr. Park Sang-min is requesting immediate secure conference." Min Ji-woo nodded. Dr. Park was one of Earth's leading xenobiologists. though his work often took him to remote locations, for reasons that were never fully explained. If anyone could make sense of this message, it would be him. Dr. Park appeared on the secure video link from what looked like an underground facility. The walls behind him were made of some material Minji Wu didn't recognize, and strange symbols glowed softly along the edges of the frame. "Captain Min, Doctor," Park said urgently, "I need you to understand that this situation is not what it appears to be. The aliens who sent this message have made a critical error in their intelligence gathering." "What kind of error?" Minji Wu asked. Dr. Park was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "They think Earth is isolated. They think we're primitive. They think we're alone." He leaned closer to the camera. "They're wrong about all of these things." Before Minji Wu could ask what he meant, another voice joined the conversation. Admiral Ko Yeon-soo appeared on a second screen, her weathered face showing the strain of carrying heavy secrets. "Captain Min," the admiral said, "there are things about Earth's true situation that very few people know. Things that are about to become critically important." Quote. Minji Wu felt her pulse quicken. "What things?" Dr. Park activated a device Minji Wu had never seen before. The air above his desk shimmered, and suddenly a figure appeared in holographic projection. The being was tall and graceful, with skin that seemed to shift between blue and silver. Her eyes held the wisdom of countless years. "Greetings, Captain Minji Wu," the alien said in perfect English. "I am Elder Zinmari of the Thari Collective. We have been waiting a long time for this moment." Minji Wu's hand moved instinctively toward her sidearm, but Admiral Ko raised a calming gesture. "The Elder is a friend, Captain. More than a friend. She represents allies we've had for 50,000 years." "I don't understand," Minji Wu said. Elder Zinmari's expression was gentle but serious. "Captain, your species is not isolated. Earth is not defenseless, and humanity is not primitive. For millennia, your people have served as guardians for 17 peaceful civilizations across this galaxy. The Hegemony Coalition has no idea what they have declared war against." The revelation hit Minji Wu like a physical blow. "Guardians?" Dr. Park nodded. "We protect others while appearing weak ourselves. It's worked perfectly for thousands of years. No aggressive species has ever suspected that Earth serves as the center of a vast defensive network." Admiral Ko leaned forward. "The aliens approaching our system think they're attacking helpless primitives. They have no idea they're about to face the secret defenders of galactic peace." Minji Wu looked at the three faces before her, human and alien working together in ways that challenged everything she thought she knew about Earth's place in the universe. "How long do we have?" she asked. 2 days, Elder Zinmari replied. 2 days to decide whether to maintain our secret or reveal the truth, to save not just Earth, but the 17 worlds that depend on us for protection." Minji Wu straightened in her chair. The weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders, but her voice remained steady. "Then we'd better get started." The Hegemony Coalition fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system with the confidence of predators approaching helpless prey. Supreme Chancellor Vex Tar stood on his command bridge, watching the tactical displays as 700 warships took their positions. The small blue world ahead showed no signs of panic or preparation. "Scan results, Commander Zaktha," Vex Tar ordered. The massive Korvac warrior studied his instruments with growing amusement. "Primitive chemical rockets in low orbit. Chancellor. A few small space stations. Some satellites that appear to be for communication only. Their largest military vessels are tiny patrol craft that couldn't damage our escort fighters." Vex Tar's forearms spread in satisfaction. Just as intelligence predicted, these humans are even weaker than expected. On the bridge screens, Earth appeared peaceful and undefended. Cities glowed softly on the night side of the planet. No weapons platforms were visible. No defensive fleets moved to intercept the coalition forces. It seemed almost too easy. Commander Yix of the Vril buzzed thoughtfully. Chancellor, their transmission frequencies show unusual patterns. They may have detected our arrival. Of course they have, Vextar laughed. The transmission reached Earth Defense Command within minutes. Captain Min Ji-woo stood before the main communication screen, flanked by Admiral Ko Yun-soo and Dr. Park Sang-min. She had spent the previous 2 days learning truths about humanity that still left her mind reeling. Vextar's scaled face filled the screen, his yellow eyes gleaming with arrogance. Primitive humans of Earth, I am Supreme Chancellor Vextar of the Hegemony Coalition. Your pathetic defenses cannot stand against our might. Surrender now, and some of you may be permitted to live as slaves. Min Ji-woo stepped forward, her expression calm despite the magnitude of the moment. Her uniform bore no decorations that would reveal Earth's true capabilities. To alien eyes, she appeared to be exactly what they expected, a desperate leader of a primitive world. Chancellor Vextar, she replied evenly. We cannot surrender. Vextar's laugh echoed through both ships. Cannot. You have no choice, human. Our fleet contains 700 warships. Your planet has nothing that could threaten even our smallest vessel. We cannot surrender, Min Ji-woo repeated, because others depend on us. The alien leader misunderstood completely. Others? You mean your own population? Your surrender will save their lives. Primitive one. Resistance will only bring destruction. Behind Min Ji-woo, Dr. Park activated systems that had remained hidden for millennia. Deep beneath the Gobi Desert, ancient communication arrays began transmitting coded signals to 17 different star systems. The message was simple. The Guardians were threatened, but the plan remained unchanged. I see your primitive mind cannot grasp reality, Vextar snarled. Very well. We will demonstrate the futility of resistance. The transmission ended, and Vextar turned to his fleet commanders. Begin the attack. Target their military installations first. Show them that their toys cannot protect them. Captain Min Ji-woo walked to the tactical station, where Admiral Ko was coordinating Earth's response. Around them, officers worked at consoles that looked decades out of date but functioned with impossible precision. Defense Fleet Alpha, assume formation, Min Ji-woo ordered into her communicator. In Earth's orbit, 30 human vessels moved into position between the planet and the approaching alien fleet. To hegemony sensors, the ships appeared to be hastily converted civilian craft, armed with primitive projectile weapons. Their hulls showed signs of patchwork repairs, and their energy signatures were weak and inconsistent. Commander Zaktha studied the human defensive line through his ship's sensors. Chancellor, they're actually going to fight with those scrap heaps. Let them come, Vextar ordered. Their sacrifice will make our victory more satisfying. The first engagement began exactly as the coalition expected. Human ships advanced in loose formation, their movements suggesting inexperienced crews operating inferior equipment. Hegemony fighters streaked forward to engage, their advanced energy weapons charging for what should have been a devastating first strike. The coalition's plasma cannons fired in perfect synchronization, sending streams of destructive energy toward the human vessels. The alien commanders watched their displays, expecting to see primitive Earth ships exploding into debris clouds. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships absorbed the energy blasts and continued advancing. Their hulls glowed briefly where the plasma struck, then returned to normal. Not one human vessel was destroyed or even appeared damaged. What? Commander Yix buzzed in confusion. How are they still functional? Vextar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Increase power. Target their engines directly. The second wave of attacks proved equally futile. Human ships continued their advance, seeming to shrug off weapons that could destroy asteroids. But their return fire was equally confusing. Instead of trying to destroy coalition vessels, human weapons targeted specific systems with surgical precision. Hegemony fighters found their engines disabled but life support intact. When coalition bombers lost weapons control, human ships immediately moved to assist with rescue operations instead of finishing them off. Alien crews watched in amazement as enemy vessels risked their own safety to save coalition pilots whose ships had been crippled. Commander Hicksval of the Zephyrians had never seen anything like it. "Chancellor, they're not trying to kill us. They're trying to capture us." "Impossible," Vextar snarled, but his instruments confirmed the observation. Human tactics focused entirely on disabling, rather than destroying. Every time a coalition ship lost power, human rescue vessels appeared immediately to offer assistance. Dr. Park monitored the battle from Earth's surface, watching systems activate that had remained dormant since humanity's last major conflict. Around Earth's orbit, objects that had been mistaken for space debris for thousands of years began moving with purpose. Ancient defense platforms shed their camouflage and revealed their true nature. Admiral Ko opened a communication channel to the human fleet. "All vessels. Phase 1 is complete. Initiate Phase 2. On my mark." In the asteroid belt, mining equipment that had operated for decades suddenly revealed additional capabilities. Automated systems began repositioning rocks and ice chunks into defensive formations. What the aliens had assumed were natural phenomena were actually carefully maintained strategic positions. The most shocking moment came when Commander Zaktha's flagship suffered engine failure after a precisely targeted human missile strike. As his ship drifted helplessly, expecting final destruction, 3 human vessels surrounded him. Instead of weapons fire, they extended docking tubes and evacuation pods. "Korvac vessel, this is Captain Lee of the Earth Defense Force," came a transmission in perfect Korvac language. "We're detecting life support failures on your ship. Permission to assist with crew evacuation?" Zaktha stared at his communication system in absolute bewilderment. The humans were offering to save the lives of aliens who had come to destroy their world. It violated every principle of warfare he understood. "This is impossible," he whispered to his bridge crew. "They should be trying to kill us." "Korvac vessel, please respond," Captain Lee's voice continued. "Our sensors show you have wounded crew members. We can provide medical assistance." For the first time in his military career, Commander Zaktha didn't know what to do. His weapons were disabled, his engines were dead, and his enemies were trying to save his life. Supreme Chancellor Vextar watched his invasion force being systematically neutralized by tactics he had never encountered. Human vessels that should have been destroyed in the first minute of combat were not only surviving but actively rescuing coalition crews from disabled ships. "Status report," he demanded. Commander Yix consulted her instruments with growing confusion. 47 of our vessels are disabled but intact. No casualties reported. The humans keep rescuing our crews before any fatalities can occur." Vexistar's yellow eyes narrowed as he studied the tactical display. The primitive species he had expected to conquer in hours was demonstrating technology and tactics that shouldn't exist. Worse, they were fighting a war while trying to save the lives of their enemies. "What are these humans?" he asked himself. On Earth's surface, Elder Zin Mari's holographic image appeared in the command center. Her expression was proud but sad. "They're learning," she told Minji Wu quietly. "The coalition came expecting conquest, but they're discovering something else entirely." Minji Wu watched the battle displays where human and alien ships worked together in rescue operations. "Will they understand?" "Some will," Elder Zinmari replied. "Others will need more time to accept that strength and mercy are not opposites, but the same force applied with wisdom." The battle that was supposed to last minutes had stretched into hours, with no human vessels lost and dozens of alien crews saved by the very species they had come to destroy. Supreme Chancellor Vextar's frustration boiled over as he watched his invasion force being systematically humiliated. Hours had passed, and not a single human ship had been destroyed. Worse, coalition crews were actually beginning to thank their human rescuers for medical assistance and life support repairs. "This ends now," Vextar snarled, his forearms working the command console with violent efficiency. All vessels. Ignore their military ships. Target the planet directly. These soft humans will surrender once we threaten their civilians. The order sent shockwaves through the Coalition fleet. Direct attacks on population centers violated several military codes that even aggressive species typically respected. But Vextar's authority was absolute, and his flagship led the charge toward Earth's blue-white surface. Commander Zaktha, still stranded in his disabled vessel, watched in horror as the Coalition fleet abandoned military targets in favor of civilian ones. Chancellor, this is not honorable warfare, he transmitted on an open channel. Honor is a luxury for the victorious, Vextar replied coldly. Target their cities, show them the price of resistance. As the hegemony ships approached Earth's atmosphere, something extraordinary happened. The planet's auroras, which had been beautiful dancing lights in the polar regions, suddenly intensified and spread across the entire globe. Green and blue energy patterns swirled around Earth like massive protective arms. What is that? Commander Yix buzzed from her ship, watching energy readings that defied explanation. The answer came as the first Coalition vessels touched the edge of Earth's atmosphere. Instead of penetrating to the surface, they encountered a barrier of solid energy that stopped them completely. Ships designed to punch through planetary defenses bounced off the aurora field like insects hitting glass. Dr. Park Sang-min stood in the underground facility that served as Earth's true command center, watching displays that showed the planet's ancient defensive systems fully activated for the first time in millennia. The walls around him pulsed with soft light, and symbols from dozens of alien languages scrolled across holographic screens. Phase 3 activation confirmed, he reported to Admiral Ko. Planetary shields are at full power. Above ground, Captain Minji-Woo watched the Aurora barrier repel Coalition ships with gentle but irresistible force. The aliens weren't being harmed, but they couldn't reach Earth's surface. Their weapons' fire simply disappeared into the energy field, absorbed, and harmlessly dispersed. That's when Elder Zin Mari's ship decloaked at the edge of the solar system. The Thari vessel was unlike anything the Coalition had ever seen. It appeared to be grown rather than built, with organic curves that seemed to flow like living tissue. Most shocking of all, it was massive, easily 10 times larger than Vextar's flagship. Elder Zinmari's voice filled every communication channel in the solar system, speaking simultaneously in the languages of all 7 Coalition species, as well as perfect human English. Hegemony Coalition forces, she began, her tone carrying the authority of eons. You have made a grave error. You have declared war on the Guardians of Peace. Vextar's bridge fell silent. Advanced alien civilizations were supposed to be a myth, yet here was proof floating before them. Who are you? He demanded. I am Elder Zin Mari of the Thari Collective, she replied. For 50,000 years, my people have been protected by the humans you now attack, as have 16 other civilizations across this galaxy. The revelation hit the Coalition fleet like a physical blow. Dr. Park's voice joined the transmission from Earth's surface, his words carrying weight that transformed everything the aliens thought they knew. Members of the Hegemony Coalition, Dr. Park said, you believe you are fighting primitive humans who have barely left their own planet. You are wrong. Humanity chose long ago to become guardians rather than conquerors. We have protected peaceful civilizations across the galaxy, while appearing weak and isolated to species like yours. Holographic displays activated throughout the Coalition fleet, showing images that challenged their fundamental understanding of the galaxy. Ancient star maps revealed a network of protected worlds that spanned dozens of sectors. Historical records showed human ships arriving at crisis points throughout galactic history, always appearing just in time to defend civilizations under threat. Commander Hicks Val of the Zephyrians stared at his screens in growing horror. Chancellor, these records show human intervention in conflicts across 3,000 years. They've been protecting others, while we thought they were isolated. But the most damning evidence came when Dr. Park accessed the Coalition's own historical databases. With casual ease that demonstrated technology far beyond what they had assumed Earth possessed, he began displaying records from each Coalition member's homeworld. The Korvax species, Dr. Park began, survived the great meteor storm of their system's early history because human vessels quietly diverted the largest asteroids. The Zephyrian homeworld was saved from solar flare devastation when human energy shields protected their atmosphere. The Vril colonies exist because human ships provided protection during their most vulnerable expansion period. Each revelation struck like a hammer blow. The Coalition species had not risen to dominance through their own strength alone. At critical moments in their development, mysterious benefactors had appeared to ensure their survival. Those benefactors had been human. Captain Minji Wu's voice carried across all channels with quiet strength. Every world you have conquered was under our protection. Every civilization you have destroyed was one we swore to defend. We failed to arrive in time to save them, but we will not fail again. The psychological impact was devastating. Coalition soldiers who had joined for glory and conquest suddenly understood that they had been destroying the very civilizations that made their own existence possible. The guardians they had never known existed had been watching, protecting, and preserving life while asking for nothing in return. Commander Zaktha, still stranded in his disabled ship, was the first to break. "My ancestors," he whispered. "The legends of sky spirits, who saved our world from the burning stones. Those were humans." Similar realizations spread through the Coalition fleet as crew members accessed their own cultural histories. Myths of mysterious protectors, legends of strangers who appeared in times of greatest need, stories of intervention that had seemed like folklore. All of it was real, and all of it pointed to humanity. Elder Zinmari continued her broadcast, her words carrying the weight of genuine sorrow. "The Preservation Alliance has remained hidden for millennia, allowing aggressive species to believe that peace was weakness. We hoped that given time, civilizations like yours would choose cooperation over conquest. Instead, you have chosen to attack the very beings who made your existence possible." Supreme Chancellor Vextar felt his authority crumbling as the truth sank in. Coalition ships began powering down their weapons independently, their crews no longer willing to fight guardians who had spent millennia protecting others. "This is deception," Vextar declared desperately. "Primitive humans cannot possess such technology." Dr. Park's response was to activate Earth's deepest secret. Across the planet's surface, installations that had been hidden beneath oceans, mountains, and ice sheets began rising. Ancient structures of impossible beauty and complexity emerged, their designs clearly showing technology that was both advanced and organic. "We are not primitive," Dr. Park said quietly. "We never were. 50,000 years ago, the Preservation Alliance offered humanity a choice: develop naturally in isolation, or accept the responsibility of protecting others. We chose protection." Admiral Ko Yeon-soo addressed the Coalition fleet directly. "Your intelligence was correct about one thing. Humanity does fight endless wars among ourselves. But those conflicts serve a purpose you could not understand. We maintain our skills in combat so that we remain capable of defending those who choose peace over warfare." The aurora shield around Earth pulsed with new patterns, and suddenly the Coalition crews could see through the energy barrier to the planet's surface. Instead of the primitive world they had expected, they saw cities that blended technology with nature, transportation systems that moved without pollution, and vast gardens that had been maintained for thousands of years. Elder Zinmari's final words carried a challenge that would reshape everything. The Preservation Alliance emerges from hiding today. 17 civilizations across the galaxy no longer need to remain secret, because you have forced this moment upon us. The choice you face now is simple. Continue your path of conquest, and face the combined might of beings who have spent millennia perfecting the art of protection. or learn what it means to be part of something greater than yourself. On his command bridge, Supreme Chancellor Vex Tar looked at tactical displays showing coalition vessels surrounded by the emerging ships of 17 different alien civilizations. His invasion force was outnumbered, outgunned, and morally outmatched by species that had revealed themselves only to protect humanity. The war he had expected to win in hours had become something else entirely. He was no longer facing isolated primitives, but the secret heart of galactic civilization itself. And his own forces were beginning to question whether they had chosen the right side. The Hegemony Coalition fleet hung motionless in space, caught between retreat and advance, as the truth settled into the minds of 7 different species. Supreme Chancellor Vex Tar watched his tactical displays with growing desperation as ship after ship powered down weapons and requested permission to communicate directly with Earth. "Status report," he demanded, though he already knew the answer would not be what he wanted to hear. Commander Yix of the Vril consulted her instruments with obvious reluctance. 40% of our fleet has ceased offensive operations, Chancellor. They are requesting dialogue with the humans instead of combat. Cowards, Vex Tar snarled. Order them back to battle formation immediately. But the fractures in his coalition ran deeper than mere disobedience. The revelation that humanity served as galactic guardians had shattered the fundamental beliefs that held the Alliance together. 3 of the 7 species had officially withdrawn from combat, declaring that they would not wage war against protectors of peace. Commander Zaktha's voice crackled over the communication system from his disabled vessel. "Chancellor, the Korvac High Command has reviewed the evidence. We formally request withdrawal from this engagement." "Denied," Vex Tar snapped. "You swore loyalty to the Coalition." "We swore loyalty to conquest and glory," Zaktha replied with dignity. "There is no glory in destroying our own protectors." The same conversation was happening across the fleet as Coalition crews grappled with the psychological impact of learning that their greatest military achievements had been acts of destruction against civilizations that had never threatened them. Worse, those civilizations had been defended by the very species the Coalition had dismissed as primitive weaklings. Dr. Park Sang-min established communication links with individual Coalition vessels. But instead of demands for surrender, he began sharing something that cut deeper than any weapon: the history of what they had destroyed. "Attention Vril Command Ship Hive 7, Dr. Park transmitted. "I am sending you records of the Meridian system, which your forces conquered 6 months ago. The beings you destroyed called themselves the Leone." The holographic display that appeared on the Vril ship showed a civilization of crystalline beings who communicated through light patterns. Their cities were grown rather than built, formed from living crystal that sang in harmonious frequencies. They had developed art forms that existed in 4 dimensions, creating beauty that most species couldn't even perceive. "The Leone had no weapons," Dr. Park continued. "They had never fought a war in their 20,000-year history. They were philosophers and artists who spent their lives creating beauty and sharing knowledge. They had been under humanity's protection for 8 millennia. Commander Yix watched the recordings in horrified silence. Her species had descended on the Meridian system, expecting resistance and finding none. The Leone had simply stood in their crystal cities, emanating patterns of light that the Vril had interpreted as surrender signals. In reality, they had been trying to communicate, to understand why these strangers had come to their peaceful world. "We killed them all," Commander Yix whispered to her crew. "They weren't even trying to fight us." Similar broadcasts reached other Coalition ships. The Zephyrians learned about the floating cities of Arcturus Prime, where beings of living gas had created poetry from atmospheric currents until Coalition forces had used chemical weapons to pacify the planet. The Korvac discovered the mountain-dwelling Thessians, who had carved entire civilizations into living rock, and whose songs could be heard from orbit until the bombing stopped forever. Each revelation was worse than the last, because each showed the same pattern. Peaceful civilizations under humanity's protection, destroyed by Coalition forces who had interpreted their lack of aggression as weakness rather than choice. Captain Min Ji-woo made a decision that surprised everyone, including her own command staff. She opened a direct communication channel to the entire coalition fleet and made an announcement that transformed the conflict. "Attention all hegemony coalition vessels," she began, her voice carrying absolute calm authority. "I am Captain Min Ji-woo of the Earth Defense Force. I am hereby ordering the complete deactivation of all defensive barriers around your ships." Admiral Ko looked at her in shock. "Captain, that will give them unrestricted firing solutions on our positions." "I know," Min Ji-woo replied. "All coalition vessels are now free to continue your attack or to withdraw from this system. The choice is yours." The order stunned both human and alien crews. At the height of a defensive engagement, Earth's commander was voluntarily removing all protection and giving their enemies complete tactical advantage. It was either the action of someone supremely confident in their moral position, or the most spectacular act of trust in military history. Supreme Chancellor Vextar stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Every energy barrier that had protected human ships was gone. Earth's aurora shield had dissolved. The human fleet hung defenseless in space, offering him the perfect opportunity for complete victory. "Chancellor," his weapons officer reported with confusion, "we have clear firing solutions on all human vessels. Their shields are down. Their defenses are offline. We could destroy their entire fleet in minutes." Vextar raised his hand to give the order, then stopped. Around him, his bridge crew watched in silence. The moment stretched as he struggled with a choice that would define not just the battle, but his understanding of what strength actually meant. Dr. Park's voice filled the silence with another transmission, this one directed specifically at Vextar himself. "Chancellor, I am sending you classified records from your own homeworld's history. Files that your leadership has kept hidden from your people for generations." The holographic display showed Vextar's own species in their earliest spacefaring period, struggling to survive in a galaxy that seemed impossibly hostile. Young civilizations faced threats they couldn't handle: asteroid impacts, solar radiation, hostile alien encounters with species that had been extinct for millennia. Your people survived their first colony ship disaster because human vessels were monitoring your expansion, Doctor, Park explained. When your exploration fleet encountered the Devourer entities in the Void sector, human forces intervened to prevent the destruction of your species. The mysterious equipment failures that saved your homeworld from the plasma storm 300 years ago were not failures at all, but human technology protecting your atmosphere. The final image showed something that shattered Vextar completely. Human rescue ships pulling Vextar's own grandfather from the wreckage of a failed mining station, saving the bloodline that would eventually produce the current chancellor. Your existence is possible because humans chose to protect rather than conquer, Doctor, Park said quietly. The strength you admire, the dominance you seek to emulate, comes from species who learned that true power is the ability to make others stronger. On his bridge, Supreme Chancellor Vextar lowered his hand without giving the attack order. Around him, his crew waited for commands that never came. The moment of perfect tactical advantage slipped away as moral uncertainty paralyzed the coalition's leadership. Commander Hicksval broke the silence with a transmission to the entire fleet. "Coalition forces, this is Zephyrian Command. We are powering down all weapons and requesting permission to communicate directly with human representatives." The psychological dam burst. Ship after ship followed the Zephyrian example, declaring their withdrawal from combat and expressing desire to understand rather than destroy. Coalition crews who had arrived as conquerors found themselves wanting to become students. Elder Zinmari's ancient ship moved closer to the Coalition fleet, its organic hull pulsing with gentle light patterns that somehow conveyed peace and welcome, despite being completely alien. The Preservation Alliance extends an invitation to any who choose understanding over conquest, she announced. Learn what your victims accomplished. See what your guardians preserved. Understand what you destroyed. and what you might yet help rebuild. The response overwhelmed every communication channel, as coalition crews requested information, asked questions, and sought ways to undo the damage they had done. Warriors who had spent lifetimes perfecting the art of destruction found themselves desperately wanting to learn the art of protection. Supreme Chancellor Vextar sat alone on his command bridge, watching his coalition dissolve around him as species chose enlightenment over empire. The war he had started to prove his strength had instead revealed his fundamental weakness. He had spent so long learning how to destroy that he had forgotten how to create. The battle for Earth was over. The real war, the fight for the soul of galactic civilization, was just beginning. 3 weeks after the Hegemony Coalition fleet arrived to conquer Earth, Captain Minji Wu stood on the observation deck of the newly revealed Earth Defense Station Alpha, watching something that would have been impossible to imagine a month earlier. Coalition ships worked alongside human vessels and Preservation Alliance craft in the largest collaborative effort the galaxy had ever seen. The transformation had not been immediate or universal. Supreme Chancellor Vextar remained in isolation aboard his flagship, refusing all communication and maintaining a stubborn silence as his former coalition crumbled around him. But his isolation made the changes in everyone else more remarkable by contrast. Commander Zaktha of the Korvac had been among the first to request what he called learning exchange. His massive frame now moved carefully through human corridors as he studied defensive technologies that prioritized preservation over destruction. The warrior who had expected easy conquest was learning how to build rather than tear down. "Captain Min," he said as he approached the observation deck, his deep voice carrying new humility. "My engineers have reviewed the human shield technology. We understand the principles, but not the philosophy behind them." Minji Wu turned from the starfield view to face the alien warrior. "What do you mean?" Zaktha gestured toward the defensive installations that surrounded Earth. "Your shields can be configured as weapons. The same energy that protects could easily be used to destroy. Yet in 50,000 years, humans have never used them for attack. My people cannot understand how a species maintains such restraint." Dr. Park Sang-min joined them, carrying a datapad filled with reports from the ongoing cultural exchange. "It's not restraint, Commander. It's understanding. When you spend millennia protecting others, you learn that destruction is easy, but creation is precious. Once you destroy something beautiful, it can never be recovered exactly as it was." The Korvac commander nodded slowly. "The Lyonnais crystal cities we destroyed on Meridian Prime. The recordings show they took 20,000 years to grow. Each one was unique." Dr. Park confirmed quietly. "The Lyonnais didn't build their cities. They sang them into existence over generations. Every crystal formation was a poem made solid, expressing concepts your species and mine can barely comprehend." Zaktha's massive hands clenched into fists. "They tried to sing to us when we arrived. We thought it was primitive noise. They were trying to share their most beautiful creation with you," Minji Wu said. "A song of welcome that had never been heard by anyone outside their species." The weight of what had been lost settled over the Korvac commander like a physical burden. Across the observation deck, similar conversations were happening as coalition species grappled with the magnitude of their mistakes. But Dr. Park had insisted that these conversations focus not on guilt, but on understanding what could be built in the future. Admiral Ko Yeon-soo approached the group with news that exemplified the transformation occurring throughout the fleet. "Captain, Commander Yix of the Vril has made an interesting proposal. Her species wants to attempt restoration of the Meridian system." Minji Wu raised her eyebrows. "Restoration?" The Vril have discovered that their ship's molecular scanners recorded detailed information about the Lyonnais crystal structures during the attack, Admiral Ko explained. "Commander Yix believes they might be able to regrow some of the destroyed cities, using those scans as templates." The idea was audacious. The Vril, who had destroyed the Lyonnais civilization, now wanted to spend decades of their own time and resources attempting to resurrect what they had killed. It wouldn't bring back the people, but it might preserve some echo of their artistry. Commander Zaktha straightened with sudden understanding. This is what you mean by building instead of destroying. The Vril cannot undo their actions, but they can create something new to honor what was lost. Exactly. Dr. Park nodded. The Preservation Alliance has always believed that the response to destruction should be creation. Not revenge, but renewal. Through the observation deck windows, they could see the most remarkable sight in galactic history. Ships from 17 different Preservation Alliance species working alongside former enemies to establish new protocols for interspecies cooperation. The Thari shared their biotechnology with former Coalition engineers. The Yilren taught sustainable resource management to species that had strip-mined entire worlds. The Korvac offered their manufacturing capabilities to rebuild what their own forces had destroyed. Elder Zinmari's voice echoed through the station's communication system as she addressed the assembled beings from dozens of different worlds. Today marks the end of the Preservation Alliance's secrecy. For 50 millennia, we have hidden from aggressive civilizations, allowing them to believe that peace was weakness. This deception is no longer necessary. Captain Minji Wu felt the weight of that statement. Humanity's role as secret guardians was ending, but their responsibility was evolving rather than diminishing. Instead of protecting a hidden network, they would now help guide an open alliance of species committed to preservation over conquest. The galaxy is large enough for both approaches to coexist. Elder Zin Mari continued. Those who choose conquest may continue their path, but they will do so knowing that peaceful civilizations are no longer defenseless. They will face not isolated victims, but a united network of species who have learned that true strength comes from making others stronger. The response from coalition forces had been overwhelmingly positive. Over 80% of the ships that had arrived as invaders had requested to join the Preservation Alliance's learning programs. They wanted to understand how civilizations could thrive without constant warfare, and how strength could be measured by what you protected rather than what you conquered. But the most meaningful transformation was happening on a personal level. Commander Hicksval of the Zephyrians had spent days studying recordings of the atmospheric poetry created by the gas-being civilization his forces had destroyed. He couldn't bring them back, but he was learning to read their final composition, a song of forgiveness that they had managed to complete even as they died. They forgave us, he told Minji Wu with tears in his compound eyes. In their final moments, they created art that expressed understanding rather than hatred. Such discoveries were happening throughout the former coalition as crews examined the records of their victims. Each destroyed civilization had faced death with dignity, often using their final moments to create rather than curse. The Thessians had carved farewell messages into their mountain homes. The crystal singers of Andromeda Prime had transmitted their entire musical heritage into space before the bombing ended their voices forever. Dr. Park had organized these revelations carefully, understanding that the coalition crews needed to see not just what they had destroyed, but how those civilizations had chosen to face destruction. Each example reinforced the same message. Peace was not weakness, and the choice to create, rather than destroy, required more courage than conquest ever could. The most profound change came when coalition engineers began working directly with human defensive specialists. They discovered that every human weapon could be reconfigured for construction or protection. Earth's orbital installations could generate energy barriers, but they could also provide power to struggling colonies. Human ships carried medical facilities that could treat any known species. The same technology that had defended 17 civilizations for millennia could now help hundreds of worlds thrive. Supreme Chancellor Vextar remained the sole holdout against this transformation. His flagship sat at the edge of the system, engines powered but weapons silent, as he watched his former followers embrace philosophies he couldn't accept. Several attempts at communication had failed. He seemed frozen by the magnitude of his mistakes, unable to move forward or retreat. Captain Minji Wu made a decision that surprised her own command staff. She took a small shuttle to Vex Tar's flagship and requested permission to board alone. She found the Supreme Chancellor on his bridge, surrounded by empty stations where his crew had once worked. Most had transferred to other ships to participate in the exchange programs. Vex Tar sat in his command chair, staring at displays showing his former coalition learning from their former enemies. "Why did you come here?" he asked, without looking at her. "Because isolation is not the answer," Minji Wu replied simply. "Your people are discovering new purposes. You could too." Vex Tar's forearms spread in a gesture of defeat. "I led 7 species to destroy Guardians who had spent millennia protecting the galaxy. There is no redemption for that level of failure. The Preservation Alliance disagrees," Minji Wu said quietly. "Elder Zine Mari has authorized me to make you an offer." For the first time, Vex Tar looked directly at her. "What offer?" "Help us find other aggressive civilizations before they make the same mistakes your coalition did. Use your knowledge of conquest-oriented species to identify those who might be convinced to choose differently. Become an ambassador to civilizations that think as you used to think." The offer hung in the air between them. Vex Tar could continue in isolation, clinging to failed philosophies. Or he could transform his understanding of conquest into something that prevented future tragedies. "Would your people trust me with such responsibility?" he asked. "Trust is earned through actions," Minji Wu replied. "But the opportunity to earn it exists, if you choose to take it." The conversation that followed lasted for hours, but its outcome was already written in the choice between isolation and connection, between clinging to the past and building toward the future. When Captain Minji Wu returned to Earth Defense Station Alpha, she brought news that completed the transformation. The last holdout had chosen understanding over pride, cooperation over conquest. The war that had begun with 7 species attacking one world ended with dozens of civilizations working together to build something unprecedented. A galaxy where strength was measured not by what you could destroy, but by what you chose to protect. Earth's secret was revealed, but Earth's purpose endured. Humanity had shown the galaxy what they really represented: the possibility that any species could choose to become guardians rather than conquerors, protectors rather than predators. The stars themselves seemed brighter with that knowledge spreading among them.